All right, let's jump into this Phillip DeFranco.
Angry intro, fun. So this is unfortunately one of those videos where I have to open up and ask you at the beginning to please, yes, like and comment and share this video very specifically. Share this video because we need to talk about something that is incredibly important that YouTube, it appears, is currently suppressing. According to the uploader of the content and the footage that we're going to be going through, it's been age restricted and now blocked in most countries. So you know how the David Dobrik situation was already incredibly bad? Well, it just got worse for a completely different reason. So David Dobrik pretty much not on the internet right now after all the fallout from the Dirty Dom assault allegation situation where he was losing sponsors, he had to step down from his own company. Granted, he ended up issuing an apology that was widely received well. But now we finally got an answer to what happened to Jeff Wittick's face. Jeff Wittick, of course, a member of David Dobrik's vlog squad. We've known for a while now that he sustained a life-altering injury, but very few details were known. With Wittick himself at times dodging questions, kind of opening up, we knew that he was saving it for a documentary. Also, on a personal note, I was just kind of waiting for this story to break. The video of the accident has leaked several times, but there's been an effort to keep it off of the internet. But Jeff Wittick last night uploaded a video titled "How I Broke My Face," and the answer was revealed, and bluntly put, Jeff Wittick almost died, yes, due to a choice that he made, but also due to the gross negligence of David Dobrik, where he almost ended up killing one of his best friends.
I think I saw a little bit about this.
So episode 2 of Wittick's documentary series, it starts with the pandemic kind of shutting things down. You have David Dobrik telling the vlog squad members that he wants big stunts to be sort of their big comeback video. There's a big skydiving element to the video, but then they get to this lake. And for the stunts in the lake, you have David controlling this big excavator in the lake while they used it to do wakeboarding and things like that. Then they just sort of have people holding onto a rope that's attached to the excavator that David's swinging around the lake. You first see Corinna Kopf doing this. You eventually see that she's feeling that it's dangerous. She asks to be taken down. She's yelling, "Oh, what the fuck? Put me down. You take things too far." She's then able to get down. Jeff goes, "You know, I've just spent so much time skydiving. What's the worst that could happen?" At which point Jeff notes that he made a mistake, saying, "I forgot the biggest fucking idiot I know was driving it." And then, I mean, I can't even show you the video. Jeff is swinging at incredibly dangerous high speeds. We then see the excavator seemingly kind of just stop, at which point you don't need to be an expert in physics to realize what's gonna happen to Jeff, who's holding onto a rope on something that was moving but is now stopped, and he slams at high speed into this metal excavator. He then falls from this crazy height into the water, which is only a foot deep. We then see this quick glimpse of what appears to be Jeff kind of just dangling from this rope underwater. I mean, it's just this extremely upsetting, horrific situation. And if anything, I mean, based off of what we publicly know, I think it speaks volumes about the loyalty that Jeff Wittick has to this man. One, how has David Dobrik not been sued into the ground and ruined from this happening? He almost killed somebody. Also, I wonder if in episode 3 we're gonna know if there was any sort of stunt coordinator, if they had insurance for this. Understand, David Dobrik is lucky he's not in jail for this.
How is this man
I'd be like,
still
yeah, you know, when people are reacting like this
making
and that,
content?
The only reaction I have to this is mine. What the fuck? I think for a while we've all been on the same page. Like, oh, David Dobrik's not doing vlogs because of COVID. How responsible of him. And then we learn, oh, maybe it's because he almost killed someone and he's freaked out. Granted, it does appear that he's doing this sit-down interview with Jeff, so he's not trying to hide this. He's letting Jeff control the story, but he'll only really maybe get small points for that because the other option would be trying to silence essentially your victim. Like, here's the thing with this story. Jeff Wittick obviously gets to decide for himself if he forgives David, what their relationship is. But understand, that does not negate what you feel from this incident. It does not in any way, because it still happened. Also, as far as Jeff Wittick saying that YouTube cracked down on this video, I mean, YouTube can say whatever regarding policy, but it's going to be perceived by a ton of people that YouTube is protecting what they hope to be the comeback for one of their golden boys. Yeah, for now, that is where this ridiculous situation ends, and obviously we're gonna have to wait and see what other further fallout there is, what else we learn from this docu-series. I don't know, it just makes me sick to my stomach, but you know, with this story, I do want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts with all of this? Then we should definitely talk about updates around the Mark Rober story and backlash we covered earlier this week. Right, Rober, who revealed that his son is on the autism spectrum, is co-hosting a star-studded fundraiser with Jimmy Kimmel to raise funds for the charity Next for Autism, with them saying they're hoping to raise money to support autistic kids transitioning from school to adulthood, saying that there's this massive drop-off of services for that age group. But like we talked about, there were many that were quick to share their concerns over the charity partnership, with many primarily saying that Next supports finding a cure for autism, something that the community does not believe in. Also because, among other things, it has ties to other controversial organizations like Autism Speaks, with people also having issues about the practice of
I'm not mistaken, okay, one, real quick on David Dobrik. I don't really want to comment on it because David Dobrik's not even worth commenting on. Like, there's so many reasons he should be in jail. There's so many reasons he, at the very least, shouldn't be making content. There's so many reasons, also, at the very least, people shouldn't be giving him attention. Unfortunately, like, Phillip DeFranco and people covering, you know, obviously situations that need attention, that's, of course, acceptable and should be done. And each one of those is another on the fucking overwhelming pile of shit that just goes to show this is not a decent human being. Like, human beings make mistakes, yeah. Human beings don't habitually have like utter disregard for like everyone around them, or at the very least their closest friends around them. You know what I mean? Like, he's routinely put people in danger, put them in situations where they felt threatened, either, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, or a combination of such, or, you know, situations like this where he's doing some sort of stupid stunt he has no business doing with equipment he has probably no business using, and he's not he's just, why are you hanging a person from this thing and swinging them at super fast speeds? My bad. Super fast speeds. When was that ever going to go well? When was that not going to end horribly? Like, oh my god. It's literally like a 10-year-old. Like a psychopathic 10-year-old. I mean, obviously not psychopathic. There's a huge difference between David Dobrik and a psychopath, but holy shit. Holy shit, dude. It's like exhausting to keep up with that dude. But and for autism thing, part of the story yesterday was he was talking about the Next for Autism came out and said, you know, they've never supported a cure, and they like even showed some of their mission statement and how it was in contradiction to some of the statements that were being made. So I'm a little confused as to what's going on here. Maybe it's just part of the public backlash.
Analysis, as well as autistic people not being on the board or in leadership positions of Next for Autism. Next defended themselves against these criticisms, saying they were either false or misleading. But we also saw a different kind of backlash against Mark's promotional video. For instance, an organization and channel called Special Books for Special Kids expressed frustration over the fact that Mark included one of their interviews with an autistic person without their permission, with a group writing on Instagram that it's angered that person's family and they want that footage removed from Mark's video. Also, I do want to preface the next part by saying a thank you to the, I want to say about 90% of autistic people that took me at my word that I actually wanted to have conversations and learn more about your point of view. Well, obviously, I can't respond to every single message. I very much have appreciated that, as well as people that tagged me and pointed me in the direction of TikTok creators like Paige Lael, where she announced that on the same day as Rover's event, April 30th from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and actually, I'll just let her speak for herself.
On the same day, April 30th from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. EST, a bunch of my autistic TikTok friends and I will be hosted by Beck Spectrum in a Twitch live stream donation event dedicated to ASAN, which is an organization that we actually like. I personally will be guesting from 8 to 9 p.m. We may not raise $1 million, but we really want to raise awareness and raise our voices. We are sick of neurotypicals talking over us. We deserve to call the shots on our own disorder. Please consider donating and please spread the word. We hope to see you there.
According to Beck Spectrum, the guest lineup is still in progress, but there will be other creators and advocates featured, as well as businesses and artists who are collaborating for giveaway prizes. At the full schedule of that stream expected to be coming out in the next few days. But ultimately, that is where we are with this story now, and obviously, you know, in this situation, you have people making claims about Next for Autism, Next for Autism making denials, but it felt very important to provide an update to this story because, you know, when you're talking about autistic people, you should probably hear from them as well. And a quick happy news update. Remember, you only have 8 days left to subscribe to this channel to potentially win $5,000. And in huge news that will probably go nowhere, the House of Representatives voted today 216 to 208 to pass a bill that would grant statehood to Washington, D.C. And so that means that this is able to get through the Senate, it gets to Biden, he signs it, it would give the district 2 senators and a voting representative in the House. In honor of Frederick Douglass, the new state would be called Washington Douglas Commonwealth, but like I said, it would be a complete shock to me if this was actually able to pass. While yes, you do have Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer saying, yes, we are going to bring this legislation to the floor, it is seemingly universally disliked by Republicans and even a few Democrats. This is
ridiculous. Washington, D.C. needs this. Washington, D.C. has to go through fucking hell just to change any local laws because they technically use the United States House of Representatives and Senate as their state, you know, or city entities. So basically, you have a bunch of dudes that are only concerned about preserving their way of life and their money. And then every now and then this poor city, literally poor, fiscally poor city that is just trying to take steps to maybe not be such a way. And every time a bill comes up or any sort of motion is introduced, they don't have the fucking time for it. They don't have the time of day for it. So they're just stuck in this cycle of like nothing getting done unless it's like detrimental and it starts affecting, you know, the small section of the city that's like well protected. It's ridiculous. So like honestly, okay, one, Puerto Rico should be a state if they want it. I believe they do at this point. So they should be. I'm a little upset that Puerto Rico is not the 51st state. But Washington D.C. does also need it. So I mean, like these people are also suffering. They do also need means to improve their way of life. It is ridiculous that like Republicans would oppose this. I don't even understand why they would oppose this. I don't understand what difficulties or what issues it would even bring up for them.
And as far as the arguments you have against statehood, you have Republicans saying this is essentially just the Democrats going for a power
grab. Yo, what's up, Mama Rocker? How you doing?
An advantage in the House and the Senate. Whereas you have most Democrats saying, no, this is just a civil rights issue. Right? If Washington, D.C. doesn't get the representation in the House and the Senate, essentially you have what is largely a black population being disenfranchised.
Exactly. Exactly.
Vote for Democrats. Yeah. Big news, which on a personal note, I support the statehood for Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C.
Oh, gross politics.
I don't think they're going to see it with this Senate. Then, apparently because Oklahoma didn't want Florida to have all the fun, Oklahoma seemingly has just legalized vehicular manslaughter.
We playing Pokemon here not too long.
Here is that Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt signed a bill yesterday that's giving immunity to drivers who run over people with their cars during protests.
I saw this.
Under the new law, any driver who, quote,
is this Oklahoma too now?
Injury
oh
or
my
death to
God.
protesters
So that's
cannot
Florida
be held
and
liable
Oklahoma
if they are
now.
fleeing from a riot, and there is
so now in Florida and Oklahoma, people can run over protesters with immunity. Do I even need to say anything else? There are places in this country where you can run over people, murder them, not in trouble.
Reasonable belief they are in danger. Additionally, the legislation also makes it a misdemeanor for anyone to obstruct a public street during demonstrations, with that being punishable by up to a year in prison and a $5,000 fine. But,
okay, cool.
Here's the thing.
Okay, cool. You can run over a person and murder them and not get in trouble. But if you're standing in the street, that's $5,000. Cool. Definitely free.
Florida and Oklahoma are by no means the only states proposing anti-protest legislation. You have legislators in Iowa approving a bill that makes it legal for people to hit protesters with their cars. We're also seeing things like a Republican proposal in Indiana that would actually ban anyone convicted of unlawful assembly from holding state employment, including holding elected office. You've got a similar bill in Minnesota that would bar people convicted of unlawful protesting from receiving student loans, unemployment benefits, or housing assistance. You've got a measure already passed by the Kentucky State Senate that would criminalize insulting the police. And in fact, according to the International Center for Not-for-Profit Law, GOP lawmakers in 34 states have introduced 81 anti-protest bills during the 2021 legislative session, more than twice as many proposals as in any other year. Though, of note, and we touched on this when we were talking about the Florida law, civil rights groups have already said that they are going to sue, with the ACLU specifically saying they will not rule out doing the same in Oklahoma. But yeah, with that said, that is in court, and if you're in these states where this is happening, please be extra safe, because while there are people that are explaining this as, you know, like your car's getting swarmed and you're trying to escape, do not think for a second there aren't people out there that think this is just the green light to mow down protesters. I hate saying that, but you know it's true. Then we should definitely talk about President Biden in the news. Reportedly, he has not tripped up any stairs today, which hopefully that statement remains to be true until midnight tonight. Let's give it up for the president. Left foot, right foot, sir.
Left foot, right foot.
The news is for several reasons.
Damn.
Speaking at the International Climate Summit this morning, President Biden said that the United States would cut greenhouse gas emissions at least in half from 2005 levels by 2030. And that is very significant for two main reasons. First, it doubles America's previous commitment laid out by the Obama administration under the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement. At that time, Obama aimed to cut emissions 26 to 28% of 2005 levels by 2025. And secondly, because it marks a sharp reversal from the Trump administration, which of course pulled out of the Paris Agreement and in general seemed to take personal offense to science. But to be clear, the goal from Biden is very ambitious. And more than a decade later, the United States is barely even halfway to meeting the 10-year goals set by Obama. Right, according to the EPA in 2019, the most recent year where complete data is available, U.S. emissions were just 13% below 2005 levels. So to achieve Biden's aim here, the United States is going to have to drastically reduce its use of fossil fuels and basically
the government should seize the oil industry.
Political backlash from Republicans in Congress. This, despite the fact that Biden's decision is actually in line with hundreds of executives at major companies, including the likes of Apple and Walmart, who have even explicitly endorsed the 50% target. All of this also brings the United States closer to other countries' goals. We had the UK pledging to cut its emissions by 68% in the same time frame. Just today, we saw Canada promising to reduce their emissions to at least 40% of 2005 levels by 2030. Japan pledging to cut 46% below their 2013 levels by the end of the decade. Also, of note here, neither China nor India, two top emitters, have made any promises during the first day of the summit. In fact, China, which is already the world's biggest emitter, they just reaffirmed their previous target to reach peak emissions by 2030. But also, with all of this happening, there are some saying that Biden and these other world leaders are not doing enough. For example, climate activist Greta Thunberg released a video today saying these targets could be a great start if it wasn't for the fact that they're full of gaps and loopholes, criticizing leaders for, quote, leaving out emissions from consumption of imported goods, as well as international aviation, shipping, and the burning of biomass, and saying, while we can, others, and even ourselves, we cannot fool nature and physics. And ultimately, with this story, and honestly anything that stood out to you today, I'd love to know your thoughts in those comments down below, because this is the end of today's show. As always, thank you for watching the video.
I mean, yeah, we definitely need to do more about the client. But now, before we switch over to Pokemon, we're going to watch a little more politics. Sorry, off my rocker, but we're going to watch Hassan rip apart the right, because it's so good.
Tucker Carlson has a legitimate meltdown, okay, after the corrections, like former corrections guy, Ed Gavin from New York City, says something along the lines of that was unjustifiable use of force, and he just has his Jokar moment. Like, he has his, wasp Jokar moment. Not Indian Jokar, but wasp Jokar.
I just think that it was excessive, and it shouldn't happen. And what I'd like to say,
the guy who did it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about the rest of the country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern. But I appreciate your coming on, Ed Gavin. Thank you. Nope, done. Thank you.
What the fuck, dude? That is insane. My dude is losing it.
He calls himself a reporter.
Losing it, dude. He has lost his mind over, again, a being murdered
watching
by a
some
cop
more news.
and the cop not getting away with it. That is... Let's run it again. Let's run that video again, actually.
Look at this fucking
it was excessive,
Joker. I hate
and it shouldn't happen. And what I'd like to say,
the guy who did it looks like he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. So I'm kind of more worried about
the guy who did feels like he's gonna spend the rest of his life in prison. Like,
what does that even mean?
So sad. Why is it so hard for you to hide your emotions? He's literally overcome with emotions, overcome with sadness. First of all, he's not spending the rest of his life in prison. He's probably going for like less than 20 years. Okay, he's getting less than 20 years. But like, why are you so upset? Like this is a bit like Nancy Pelosi, right? Nancy Pelosi doesn't give a shit about George Floyd one way or the other, and she can't hide it. So she accidentally says, oh, shouts out to George Floyd for being murdered. It was pretty pog. And this is the other side of the equation where, like, he is literally, like, Nancy Pelosi doesn't care. He is upset. He does care, but for the other way around.
Exactly.
Where, cops are getting punished for murdering black people. That's unacceptable. And he can't hide it either. He just cannot hide his feelings. His true colors here.
the rest of the country, which, thanks to police inaction, in case you haven't noticed, is like boarded up. So that's more my concern. But I appreciate your coming on, Ed Gavin. Thank you. Nope, done. Thank you.
The real fun, I guess.
I know.
Tragic, yet also.
Don't worry, we're switching to Pokemon after this, so it's gonna get way more fun.
Whenever they get mad about a just sentence like this, is that their expectation is that the justice system is supposed to be unjust. Their expectation is that the justice system...
Not only is their expectation that the justice system is supposed to be unjust, it's also that the justice system is supposed to provide some sort of, like, revenge or restraint on people. And that was never, ever in the playbook. Just saying. Oh, these are just It's mostly people reacting to the Derek Chauvin verdict. Republicans reacting to the Derek Chauvin verdict because he was found guilty in all 3 counts of murder. Get out in an hour? Nice. That's solid.
Is supposed to side with the cops. So when it doesn't, they're like, oh, what the f? Come on, dude. Why do we have a criminal justice system if cops can't murder black people in broad daylight?
That's exactly what they sound like.
That's the real reason why they're upset, because they're like, well, this is how it's supposed to work. Cops
yes,
to
because that is the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it's set up right now.
Get away with it. Prosecutors are supposed to look the other way, and judges, in a really crazy instance where prosecution does come forward with some charges, is supposed to, look the other way. That's their expectation. That's the hidden truth behind the reason why conservatives are upset about this.
Systemic racism, a term that neither Joe Biden nor anyone else who uses it has ever defined with any precision whatsoever.
Shut the fuck up.
But more striking is Biden's posture. You'd think he'd be excited by this. Just this morning, as the jury was still deliberating, the President of the United States said he was praying for a guilty verdict.
I'm praying the verdict is the right verdict, which is...
I mean, the
okay, he said right verdict 1. And do you know how many trials Trump commented on?
They don't know what Joe Biden is saying. It doesn't matter.
The Kyle Rittenhouse trial?
It's overwhelming in my view. I wouldn't say that unless the jury was sequestered now and not hear me say that.
Well, that's really great. That's great. Joe Biden, in all of his endless senility, is still aware that the jury is already sequestered. So what he's saying is actually not even impactful remotely.
Right.
Tucker Carlson believes that. Why do they not clip chimp themselves? I really don't understand when the fucking idiotic producers over at Fox News, like, why did they play the full clip? Like, they should LSF clip chimp it. I don't know why they literally play the entire clip.
When was the last time a sitting president weighed in on a jury decision before it was made?
The last president.
Can you imagine? His audience is so fucking stupid. His audience is dumber than senile Joe Biden. Tucker Carlson is in full cry tonight about Biden's comments today, asking when was the last time a sitting president weighed in on a jury decision before it was made? Never really. Yeah, I find that hilarious that not only did Donald Trump weigh in on it, but he literally was just like, we are going to change, I'm going to pardon him. I'm going to pardon everyone.
Yeah.
Like what you're doing. Pardons are coming.
Yeah, he was just conveying what many people were feeling. He wasn't weighing in as the single most powerful man in the world on a jury verdict that hadn't been reached yet. He didn't say what you saw him say. If that sounds like a familiar defense, it's exactly what Maxine Waters and her defenders throughout Washington are using today after Waters threatened the jury with violence if it didn't find a guilty verdict.
Bro, Maxine Waters is the scariest person to Republicans.
No shit.
Yo, it's wild. I watched a video on one of those fucking Instagram accounts, okay, of this dude, this white kid who is clearly a frat fucking kid, cracks open a bottle of whiskey.
I know how dumb it is, but it's important. It's actually important to keep an eye on these things. I believe it's important to keep an eye on the
immediately.
I believe it's important to keep an eye on the talking points of the other side. I believe it's important to stay up to date with what's going on. But that's not something I do all the time. I go in and out of it because my emotions and my psyche can only handle so much of reality, because reality is pretty dark, pretty dim affair. So, I go in and out of it. But right now, I am trying to tap in to see what's going on. So as of late, I have been watching the news. I'm sure here in a couple weeks, disgusted by all of it.
Okay. And someone in the fucking comments wrote, these people not afraid of anything but minorities. And it's the truest fucking comment I've ever seen, dude. These guys, they'll do the craziest shit, but then turn around and they're just afraid of Maxine Waters. If you sneezed in Maxine Waters' direction, she's 78 years old. How are you unironically trying to make an argument that this lady is she's
threatening,
really agitating people?
Yeah.
82? I don't even know. I don't know how old she is. She's old. She's very old.
Damn, she's
old as
great
fuck.
for
This
82.
terrifying individual said that there will be continued protests in the street if a just verdict has not been reached. The terrifying individual, 82-year-old Maxine Waters. Well, she is black after all. Look at how black she is. That immediately should give you concern.
We've got to not only stay in the street,
listen to her,
fight for justice. But I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty.
Good.
I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree murder.
It is first
Well, we
degree.
gotta stay
I mean,
on
it
the
wasn't.
street,
It was second
And
degree.
we've got to get more active. We've got
More
to get
confrontational.
more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
So there's a reason police were all over the streets and cities across the country last night, and it's that. It's the threat
Yeah,
of
because of
violence.
all the groups of
And Maxine
healing
Waters
people.
threatened violence before the jury had even begun to consider the facts of the
The
case.
EDP situation.
That's
No,
so
what's
far.
that?
Because everybody's like, I'm so macho, I'm a manly man, and then turn around and be like, I am pissing, shitting, and farting that this 80-year-old woman said that of course there is going to be continued protests if justice is not reached and our struggle continues and our work continues. You know what I mean? Like, how are you like the macho man Randy Savage while you're like literally terrified of a tiny little 80-year-old lady? Tucker Carlson literally will be like, immigrants are vermin, or they're dirty and they're parasitic, and then turn around and be like, I can't believe the dog whistles that Maxine Waters is engaging in. It's like, dude, where are your dog whistles? Maybe Tucker Carlson doesn't know what a dog whistle is because he just only has the bullhorn, you know?
I'm not sure whether the sentencing is cumulative or whether it is they take the top sentence and then everything.
Well, he decided to meet up with a 13-year-old girl. Maybe 3. Oh, damn. I've seen lots of those videos.
Falls under that,
TikTok.
but because he doesn't have a criminal record, that means he maxes out at 12 and.
How does Ben not know that? I mean, I didn't know that either. I'm pretty sure it's not cumulative, but
12.5 years for second-degree murder, 12.5 years for third-degree murder.
This is what white supremacy looks.
Didn't he go to fucking law school? Like, literally, like, I mean, I'm a fucking idiot, but motherfucker went to Harvard Law and doesn't know. 4
years or so for the manslaughter charge. It was pretty obvious from how fast the jury came back that it was going to be guilty on all counts. As soon as they said the jury was coming back today, I immediately said to my producers and publicly that it was going to be guilty on all counts because they were never going to acquit on all counts that quickly. If there had been an acquittal, it would have taken a while to get there. My own prediction was that if there had been any sort of real evidentiary consideration, which I frankly
what are you acknowledging the truth here?
In this case, it was a 3-week trial. There were 10 hours of consideration. That is wildly disproportionate in a case that has this many conflicting facts.
It doesn't need to be disproportionate if sufficient evidence was provided.
It would be a guilty verdict.
What does he mean when he says this many conflicting fact patterns? Oh my God, that's Native American Elizabeth Warren in the back. What were the conflicting fact patterns, dude? There was an overwhelming amount of evidence on the fucking side of the prosecutors that they laid out. And like wishy-washy deflections at best from the side of the defense. I mean, there's another meme going around on the internet right now in like Black Twitter and shit that like I had never even seen this, even though I was watching the fucking trial. I didn't even catch this, where like his defense attorneys, Derek Chauvin's defense attorneys, literally say something about aliens. Like where?
I did see that.
Like,
I literally did see that.
What is the longer fucking take there? I don't know, but like they tried everything. Dude.
Yeah,
they
aliens
just,
inhabit Derek Chauvin's body.
That like, well, carbon monoxide poisoning is actually a very real concern. Many people die of carbon monoxide poisoning in broad daylight, open. And
the funny part is that one of the guys set up might be. There's videos of him being racist. But no, I see what you mean. Well, that's fucking
like,
ridiculous.
I thought any jury that looked at this would probably have gone hung jury on the 2 murder charges. And then maybe convicted on the manslaughter charge. If you were going to get very aggressive, pretty clearly that it was going to be conviction on all charges coming out. We'll have to see whether people who had, spent their nights planning for rioting and looting now actually go home, or whether they go ahead and hit the local Target in celebration, presumably, of the verdict. But I think one thing is,
shouldn't that also show you something that, like,
presumably,
if these people are such uncontrollable animals, that's what Ben Shapiro is trying to say, that love rioting and looting. Nice trope about black people, by the way. Yeah, black people love rioting and looting, dude. Yeah, you fucking got them, dude. So what's up? Why didn't they riot and loot then when the actual verdict came out? So maybe there is a specific reason why people react the way they do to injustice in the criminal justice system and feel like they are pushed into a fucking corner where there's no other way out, and this is the only way that they can have their voices be heard or have a semblance of justice. Maybe that's the real reason. That's so fucking, that's so shitty. That's so whack.
Pretty clear for anybody who watched this case closely. I don't know how closely you watched it, Drew or Jeremy. I know, Matt, you watched it really closely. For people who watched this case closely, there are elements here that it's very difficult to make the case to me that any rational jury would have, who just looked at the evidence, would have come to the conclusion that beyond a reasonable doubt, Chauvin was guilty of second or third degree murder. This just did not fulfill the elements.
Are you kidding me?
Kind of a self-report on his own personal biases.
Yeah, there was literally footage.
So what Ben is trying to do here is basically state that the reason why the jury came to that conclusion that they did is because of the black people that they were afraid of.
The third degree murder charge particularly is absurd on its face. The third degree murder charge never should have been allowed in the courtroom. The third degree murder charge is a charge for what is generally called depraved heart murder. Depraved heart murder is you throw a brick onto a freeway, and you don't have anybody you're explicitly attempting to kill, but you end up killing somebody on the freeway.
Yeah,
you shoot a gun into
I'm
a
familiar
crowd.
with the depraved heart murder.
And that was what the third degree murder charge was. You have to have intent to kill others, right? And then you end up killing one person. It was counted anyway. It shouldn't have been on the it shouldn't have been on the docket. The second degree murder
first degree should have been
felony assault that results in the murder. So usually that is where you're robbing a store, you got a gun, the gun accident.
The felony assault in this case was
or the guy dies for some other.
The felony assault in this case was the unlawful and compromising deadly hold the officer had George Floyd in. That was the assault. They are not supposed to hold people that way. They are not supposed to have knees on that high in the back or the neck. That is assault. That was the aggravated assault. What is he talking about?
Reason while you're in the process of committing.
Or you're, I don't know. Or hey, you're choking someone.
Thank you.
You're literally fucking stabbing someone's neck with your knee for 9 minutes as they choke to death on the concrete.
That's assault.
Murder. Like that sort of felony assault, which by the way, the jury also decided was felony assault.
So you had to show that he intended to commit a felony against George Floyd. It's very difficult.
He had him almost in the car and then pulled him out of the car and threw him on the ground. That's intention.
To say that he intended to commit a felony against George Floyd because Minneapolis Police Department procedure allows you to do exactly what Chauvin was doing under these circumstances.
No, they don't. The chief of police testified that that was an unlawful hold and should not have been used.
The manslaughter one was a little bit easier to make because the charges in the manslaughter case, just have to have reckless disregard. So the prosecution can make the case that even if he didn't mean to do anything bad, it was reckless for him not to get off of Floyd. Once Floyd was already unconscious and once Floyd was dying, he should have gotten off of him, and it was reckless not to get off of him. But the fact that they can...
Come on, at least say that.
He said but. Talking about a man dying. But. Everything a person says before the word but, disregard. So he showed a drop of empathy for a human being that died, but he can't even genuinely show a drop of empathy.
That's the most reasonable one or something. There's no way.
Convicted on all three counts says to me that they weren't really looking at the evidence because, again, all three of those charges also rely on a simple question of causation, right? Did George Floyd actually die because Derek Chauvin was on top of him with his knee?
Yes, that was overwhelmingly proved.
Is that he did not have his knee on his neck, right? There was no physical trauma to his
But they did overwhelmingly prove that the position killed him.
What? So I don't understand. Did he just watch, like, only the defense in the trial
Listening to
and
Ben?
literally not even look at the video, not even look at the expert testimony
He's such a
that
tool.
not only showed the video but also recreated it. I mean, I remember talking about like Dr. Tobin literally being like, when you pull up someone's left hand in the position that Derek Chauvin did when they are handcuffed behind their back, you shut off, and giving percentages like you shut off this percentage of oxygen from the left lung. Like, literally, their own medical experts were just fucking admitting it, dude.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It was
maybe
ridiculous.
He just watched Crowder's fucking, Steven Crowder's mock video.
Which is not the same position they had him in at all. This is not the position he was in. Do you know why? Because he would have died.
And thought, that's the actual one, right? That's the real video.
There are a couple different types of asphyxia.
What do I expect from a white supremacist?
Strangle somebody. There's you deprive somebody of oxygen to the brain by cutting off their blood supply. Via their arterial blood flow, and then there is a chemical asphyxia, which is drug overdose. And the fact is that George Floyd had 3 times the deadly level of fentanyl in his system. He was high as a kite. He had 75% arterial blockage. The medical examiner originally said if I'd found him dead in his room, I would have immediately assumed that it was a drug overdose. Right, and the only reason that this became a national issue is because of the tape, which on its face, when everybody first saw it, looks really ugly. Because it turns out that a lot of policing looks really ugly. And then when you get all of the lead up At the very least, you don't have to say that you love what Chauvin did. You don't have to.
That wasn't even true. So what's up? So we're just fucking lying, or like that's what we're doing? Shit. I mean, I guess like if you're Ben Shabibo, you just lie.
To say that Chauvin acted appropriately, you don't have to say any of that stuff. What you do have to say is to not even believe that there's reasonable doubt on the murder charges. On the murder charges, where you would have to have intent, that suggests to me that this was far less about the actual facts of the case and far more about all of the hubbub surrounding the case.
Wait, no. The specific type of murder charge that Derek Chauvin was convicted guilty of does not mean that there needs to be intent. It means that there needs to be intent to engage in a violent felony assault. They proved, in my opinion, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Derek Chauvin engaged in violent felony assault when he fucking put his goddamn knee on Floyd's neck. Like, how,
they proved it.
There is no amount of
10 days straight.
When I see a case like this, and when I see the reactions from the likes of Ben Shabibo, I'm sorry.
I love that he calls him Ben Shabibo.
It's just like there is not a single instance that like there's nothing that will please them outside of just, you know, the criminal justice system doing what it's supposed to do, which is, you know, let cops get away. Gutless. Greg Gutfeld bows to the mob.
Greg Gutfeld. I was trying to avoid talking about this. Right. Here is the clip from Greg Gutfeld in its entire context, and it doesn't get better.
That was what was creating
everything that he just said. We all agree with. He's talking about, well, listen, I'm just being honest. The threat of the mob. The reason people are outraged is because the truth then leads to his conclusion, which is cowardice.
Yeah,
that's the issue. All those things can be true. The mob, right? People saying that this city was going to burn.
Why are you wearing a bulletproof vest for a podcast?
Everything that he just said was accurate. Now, a man would say, and we need to do the right thing. Now, he seems to think that Chauvin was entirely guilty.
Wait, what do you mean? We need to do what's Steven Crowder's take here? What's doing the right thing?
He doesn't know anyone who doesn't think that Chauvin deserved that verdict.
Yeah.
Again, this is an issue of being in New York City, being out of touch. Keep in mind that a lot of these people at Fox News, a lot of these even conservative pundits at the other networks, they choose to live in New York City, and they are somewhat out of touch. I know plenty of people who think that Derek Chauvin didn't deserve anything, and I know plenty of people who thought he deserved manslaughter, but it was an unfortunate situation. I know people like Dave Landau. Greg knows no one who thought that this was maybe not justice being carried out, and he doesn't care as long as he gets his. Truth, 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 and then conclusion determined by cowardice. That's why people are outraged, just to be clear. That's why people are upset.
Okay. This is exhausting. This is so exhausting. Because now this side of that side of the aisle is getting frustrated with their own rule. Okay, because it does not fucking matter what any person outside of that courtroom thinks about this case. It does not matter what they think about the evidence. It does not matter about whether or not they believe things were proved or not proved beyond a reasonable doubt. None of that matters, because you were not sitting on the jury, you were not a member of the prosecution, you were not a member of the defense, and you were not the judge. Those are the people who made this decision. Should anyone, such as Chauvin or his lawyers, have an issue with the ruling, they can take steps to get an additional hearing. However, I don't think they're going to like any future hearings they go to, because we have 4K footage of him murdering a person. That you can't change that reality. Like that, we watched it. The whole nation watched it over and over and over again. Dress it up however you like. You killed a person. That's what you did.
And I'm not outraged. I just think it's sad.
Yeah, well,
I think it's sad. I wouldn't want to be that guy's wife.
He set it up terribly. He said, I mean,
I almost want to be like, bro, if you have no one in your fucking near vicinity that feels as though, if no one in your vicinity felt the way that they did about Derek Chauvin, when there's plenty of fucking conservatives that literally thought that he should get the book thrown at him, including fucking Pat Robertson. Like, come on. If you can't find a single person, then you probably should change your friends group. But then also that implies that I'm saying other people should be friends with Steven Crowder, which I feel like is cruel and unusual torture. So I will not say that, because I think that it's fine that Steven Crowder has the small circle of sycophants that he has surrounded himself with, it would be objectively worse for all these other people.
The guilty
objectively worse.
So here you go. You have Keith Ellison. You have I don't know who else we have. I know we have AOC in this clip. Them saying, this is always what happens. This is just the first step, because you can't have an actual summer of peace. Then how would you have mass mail-in voting if you don't have these going into the midterms? How would you make sure that you?
Wait. I want Steven Crowder to describe to me how massive mail-in voting works with ongoing protests about police brutality. I need to understand how the fuck do people connect that. Like, I need to understand how someone like Steven Crowder connects those two things. Also, everybody wants a summer of peace, jackass. It's just that there is no peace for a fucking black person, and cops are still murdering people in your neighborhoods.
There's no peace for most minorities, but especially unarmed black men.
You know, an entire voting. How do you do that? You got to make sure that you have some, at least a little, at least some rioting, just a scotch of rioting. So here is the reaction from the left. Lest you thought, okay, we can all breathe a sigh of relief.
I would not call today's verdict justice, however. Because justice implies true restoration.
This is not the system working. This is a makeup call. This is the justice system trying to say that, hey, this is one bad apple, because that's how this is going to be interpreted.
A measure of justice isn't the same as equal justice. This verdict brings us a step closer.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds provocative.
We still have work to do.
Why do they have this concept that one day America is going to be perfect? People are imperfect. Any system operated by people is going to be imperfect. They seem to have this idea that once we do check X amount of boxes, we're done working. You're an idiot if you think that. Like, existence is an ongoing pursuit of a better place. Like, that's just what it is. Get in line or shut up.
I mean, she's saying it. Like, I hate to defend all these people who are liberals, except for Keith Ellison, who I like. But, like, they're kind of saying it as you're talking over it. Why are you just, like, clipping their actual good takes? It's so weird.
We still must reform the system.
We're never going to be satisfied. Black Lives Matter isn't a trend. It's a movement.
Black
Lives Matter forever, okay? So
like, what? I guess they were just, like, expecting them to shut the fuck up and be like, thank you. Well, this is so great. We finally reached a conclusion.
Yeah.
15,000 times that cops have killed someone. This is the 7th instance since 2005 where a cop was convicted. All right, I guess racism is over. Pog.
Literally.
It's not justice.
I love AOC. Please run for president. Please run for president.
This is how you know he's like such a fucking gigantic racist. She's not even speaking in like AAVE, but Steven Crowder immediately texts her. I wonder why. I know it's like a fucking I'm sorry, Miss Jackson reference too, but
Justice is George Floyd going home tonight to be with his family. Justice is Adam Toledo getting tucked in by his mom tonight.
Justice would be my insurance would have covered my eye transplant from somewhere other than Michael's.
That is not even remotely comparable.
That one hit me in the face. I just don't even understand what the joke was. Like, what was he trying to say that like AOC's not hot or something? It's like, dude, I mean, listen, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, I'm not gonna say that actually. Listen, as I was saying, God
damn!
Oh,
fuck!
I know, dude.
He said, I'm gonna keep it real. I'm not gonna say that actually. Damn, he was about to say some shit about AOC. AOC is very pretty. She's very pretty and very smart. And I hope she runs for president. Okay, I'm gonna take a quick break. And then we're gonna get Pokemon! Randomized Pokemon going. I'm stupid fucking excited for that shit. I worked. Chat, you have no idea how hard I worked on that last night. Way harder than I should have.